Russia and the Democrats. How does one inform the other? I don't want to get you confused with Democrats and their love of the Soviet Union. That is well chronicled in history. But I'm talking about today's Russia, today's Democrats. How is one revealing the other? Now, some of you might recall I shared a recent Trafalgar poll. The poll revealed that 35% of Americans supported Justin Trudeau's crackdown on peaceful, lawful protests in his country. But when broken down by party, 65% of Democrats supported Trudeau's move, which violates nearly every principle and protection that is outlined in the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. I use that poll to support my belief that Democrats no longer wish to be Americans, that they hate the United States. I think it is foolish to elect people to run the United States who wish to destroy the United States. Now, I got pushback from some left-wingers out there. They claim that they don't believe one poll is sufficient evidence to prove that Democrats no longer support our mutual compact. Well, I found more evidence, and I can thank Putin's war in Ukraine for revealing the anti-American mindset of the Democrats. What Putin's war reveals about Democrats, it's a disturbing picture of the enemy in our midst in tonight's preamble. Now, before you left-wing extremists go nuts for me calling you an enemy, let me remind you, it was your guy, Joe Biden, who used the highest office in our land to call me and all of his political opponents enemies.
I know where I stand. I will not yield. I will not flinch. I will defend the right to vote, our democracy against all enemies, foreign and, yes, domestic.
Occupier of the Oval Office dubs me his enemy. I tend to believe what he says. And I don't owe any enemy my respect. So spare me your crocodile tears, you left-wingers, and claims of gaslighting. You same lefties who said Trump was wrong for calling the press the enemy of the people have been quiet as a church mouse, if y'all believed in churches, about Biden labeling his political opposition enemies. Now, speaking of enemies, Vladimir Putin's war, absent American leadership, is causing global chaos and pain. Ukraine is bravely standing against the overwhelming forces of the Russian Red Army. Ukraine's own president has strapped on a rifle to fight alongside his countrymen just so that Ukraine can remain its own nation. The Ukrainian stand inspired another poll that revealed the true nature of American Democrats. A Quinnipiac University poll of U.S. adults asked whether they would fight or flee if they faced an invasion of the United States. The poll found that a whopping 68% of Republicans said they would remain and fight. Just 40% of Democrats said they would stay and fight an invasion. Put another way, 60% of Democrats don't think America is worth saving and would flee. That is nearly an identical percentage of Democrats who abandoned America's first principles outlined in the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Coincidence? I don't think so. This is yet another poll that says to me Democrats no longer wish to be Americans. Here's another example of Democrats' hostility toward our people and our country. Soaring gas prices. According to Gas Buddy, the national average for a gallon of gasoline has never been higher, $4.10 a gallon. But instead of help, all the administration treats us to is diversion and excuses. Listen to Joe Biden's spokesmouth, Jen Psaki, pushing false equivalencies as she tries to gaslight White House reporter Peter Doocy.
Did President Biden ever undo his executive order that stopped the construction of the Keystone XL pipeline?
Are you suggesting that would solve the gas prices issue?
Well, do you think that that would maybe affect prices faster than getting the whole country off of fossil fuels?
I actually don't think it would. The Keystone was not an oil field. It's a pipeline. Yeah. Also, the oil is continuing to flow in just through other means. So it actually would have nothing to do with the current supply imbalance.
Oh, man alive. There is so much to pick apart there on Keystone. Unlike ill-prepared people in government, businesses plan 1, 3, and 5 years out. In the case of the oil industry, they factor in current supply and projected supply to fulfill projected needs. If oil projections signal higher demand and Team Biden is taking supply offline now or in the future, prices now are sure to take a hit in the oil industry. They have to raise prices now to meet expenses and future demand. Team Biden is making sure America's future is bleak. They have stopped oil leases on federal land. They have used thug left-wing tactics to bully financial institutions to stop them from lending money to energy companies. In fact, the National Federation of Independent Businesses, an advocacy group for America's small businesses, released their outlook on Joe Biden's America. Because of Joe Biden's extremist policies, the report projects America's near economic future is getting darker by the day. The same anti-business radicals around the Obama regime are running Biden's forces now. And like during the Obama years, we're seeing slowing growth, massive spikes in energy costs, a weaker military, massive crime, and weakness abroad. All of that combines to usher in a malaise over the United States. When we need leadership, we're shown vacillation. When we need strength, we're shown weakness. And when we need relief, we're given out-of-touch idiocy.
Clean transportation can bring significant cost savings for the American people as well. Last month, we announced a $5 billion investment to build out a nationwide electric vehicle charging network so that people from rural to suburban to urban communities can all benefit from the gas savings of driving an EV.
Well, there you have it, folks. Good old Secretary Pete Buttigieg suggesting if you're tired of paying $7.55 a gallon for premium gasoline in some parts of the country, just mosey on over, pick up yourself an electric car. One teensy-weensy little problem with that, though. According to Kelley Blue Book, the average cost of acquiring an electric vehicle versus a gas-driven car, this includes leases and such, about $56,000 versus $46,000, a $10,000 difference. Even more stark, according to our buddies at WalletGenius.com, the average price of an electric car purchase is about $57,000 as compared with a gas-driven car, which is about, well, far less at $35,000. That's over a $22,000 difference. Now, don't get me started on the infrastructure deficit. I don't know, Pete. I don't think financially strapped Americans who are struggling in Biden's America, who are stressing over high gas prices, can afford an overpriced electric car. We're not only making Hunter Biden or Nancy Pelosi money in this country, seriously, we're making some seriously less cash than that. Secretary Pete's tone-deaf response has earned such derision that this and many other memes are going viral on social media. Look at that. When Americans need their Democrat-controlled government to get off of their back, all out of control, out of touch big government apparatchiks can do is offer meaningless suggestions. And in so doing, failing our people, as big government always does. You know, I think Americans should stop accepting policies from people who hate this country. I think Americans should support those who hate America relocating to other nations that would better suit their worldview, like China, Russia, and Iran. Unlike the Ukrainians, Democrats don't want to fight for their country. So if you Democrats no longer wish to be Americans and no longer care about this country, fine. Just get out and leave us the hell alone.